Euthanasia.
Of course, it's any use. I mean, like you play with the Ramones, it's a big deal. I mean, like people could not play with the Ramones like in the days. It's really hard, you know. Even today, it's because they are no longer in here. So you know, it's any
Yeah.
use for me. So please tell me some crazy stories about the Ramones and you.
Well, uh, yeah, we were lucky. In the early days, our bass player, back before we signed on Lookout, back in the late 80s, our bass player, Kevin Kesey, he knew the Ramones. That's how I got to meet them firsthand, was through Kevin, our bass player. He wasn't very good on bass, but he was one of these guys. He lived in Boston, and I was in New Hampshire, about an hour away. But he was originally from New Hampshire. That's how I knew him. But he was one of these guys that was like, he would always, like, he'd meet Debbie Harry from Blondie. He'd,
Mm.
butt fuck the girl from the Bangles, or so. He's one of all these hipster guys that always met everybody. He got backstage at the Keith Richards show. It's just like one of those guys. So he knew the Ramones. So we got backstage and met them. And then Kevin left the band, and I still stayed friends with Joey through the years, and sent him a tape back in the old days. And then he asked me to work on songs on his solo album even. So I got to be friends with him quite a bit. He would come to our shows in New York City, and then, I would see him there a lot, and we talk on the phone a lot about music. And, I realized what got him in music, and this is when he was sick too, towards the end, the last couple of years of his life, but I realized he was just so into music. It was really cool. He just was so into it. Like, he didn't call up and tell me how many people they played to, how much money he had, what girls he could afford, none of that. He just wanted to talk about music. He wanted to talk about this and song ideas. And so it was really cool. That's what got him out of bed in the morning. He would, with all the stuff Joey Ramone had done, he still loved music.
Mm.
So that was the biggest thing I got out of Joey. It was pretty cool. And I try to be the same way. I've played music for years, and I don't love every minute of it, but I still love doing it, so it's fun. I like doing it. But yeah, he was a good inspiration, and I really looked up to him because I could see him like operate at shows. I'd watch him backstage, and he was always walking down the street in New York. I did that a few times with him. Everybody would, recognize him. He was nice to everybody, and I never saw him ever get mad when people would piss me off just standing there, drunks or whatever, but he was really cool. So it was kind of a good lesson for me to really, music was what, he didn't care about the money. He didn't care about, girls and whatever. He was just a fan of the music, and I tell kids that today. They ask me about music, being in a band. I said, you know what? The best times I've had in music had nothing to do with money. Had nothing to do with money. It didn't have to do with a tour bus and money and all that. My great memories are just fucking hanging out with the guys or meeting fans and talking to kids and laughing and, playing the shows and all that stuff. But it had nothing to do with, I love playing the shows, but we never made $1 million to queers, so it was never about money. So if you don't worry about money, everything falls into place. And that's how I've approached music. I've been able to live off it, but we don't put money number one. So
That's a great.
That's what I got from Joey, though. I really got from watching him. Money had nothing to do with that dude, his day to day. Whether he was going to have a good day or bad, didn't matter how much money he had. He was into music and talking about music. And, we talk about T-Rex and Martha Hoople. And, he was a few years older than me, but like we were pretty close. And so it was really cool to talk to him about the New York Dolls. And of course, they knew the Dolls. And it was really fun. And I told him about seeing Ian Hunter and Mick Ronson from Martha Hoople and David Bowie. And, oh, man, it was really, so I got to be pretty good friends with him just talking like this. And so, yeah, it was all pretty good. He was a very nice guy. I got a million other stories with him, but he was a really good guy, a big inspiration. Where I'll meet a lot of these guys from the West Coast, and there's some shitty punk rock band with a crappy song, and they think they're important and all that stuff. And then I met the Ramones, and none of them ever had an attitude. Marky, I played with him. CJ, Richie, I'm good friends with them. Johnny, none of them. Dee Dee, they were always really mellow. So I I loved hanging out with those guys and watching how they operate.
That's really, really fascinating story. I mean, like you have that kind of like word of wisdom from Joey himself. You know, it's like
Yeah,
a great
yeah,
foundation of life.
yeah,
It's really awesome.
yeah. Well, what's like, how far are you guys from Japan?
It's like 7 hours by plane. I toured there twice, so it's all right. I mean, like it's not that far like America or like Europe, I think.
Now, how far from Australia are you guys?
It's
Are
really
you
close.
super,
Yeah, it's
you're
really
pretty
close.
close to
Mhm.
Australia. Okay, because I'm just trying to think like we could do Japan, Australia, and then hit you guys when we're in that jet. We'd love to. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, we would love to come by for a weekend to hang out. We could do a show or two again. It's just a stop if we're down there. We'd love to come do it and meet you guys. I'd love to.
yeah, we'll be
Yeah,
waiting for you. That's the best route from Japan to Indonesia and then Australia. That's the best route.
yeah,